Well, joining us now from Islamabad is Pakistan's Minister of Information, Fawad Hussain Chaudhry. In Srinagar, we have Kashmir's spiritual leader, Mirwaiz Umar Farooq. He is also the chairman of the Separatist Political Alliance, the All Parties Hurriyat Conference. And in New Delhi is a spokesman for India's ruling party, the BJP, Raman Malik. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the Newsmakers. Fawad Hussain Chaudhry, let me begin with you. That attack in Pulwama, a suicide bombing, a car bombing that killed 40 Indian military personnel, was it an act of terrorism?
Yes, sure. For sure, it's an act of terrorism, and we have condemned it. Like we have condemned terrorism everywhere in the world. We have condemned that, but just a point. What happened in Pulwama is not a disease. It's just a symptom. The disease is actually erupted by the torture and Indian atrocities that has been going on in Kashmir. This disease has spread because of the Indian policies of human rights violation in Kashmir and unfortunate occupation. When the people don't want to live with you, you can't really make them live with you by force, by torture, by violation of human rights. So this is the problem that India is not realizing. India is not looking inward, and they are just trying to push everything. They're just trying to shift blame on others, not looking inward. That's the problem. Otherwise, obviously, we have condemned that, and we will condemn. It's a political struggle, and we will condemn use of force.
Raman Malik, why is your government so convinced that Pakistan was behind the attack?
A person who is a terrorist, who was taken out in lieu of 184 odd people who were taken hostage from India over, and this Masood Azhar was a terrorist. It is known fact. Now tomorrow or today, whatever, you see, the point is, if a known terrorist is in your country and he is spreading venom, he's asking people to do terror attacks, and you still want proof, then God knows what do you think you are. You seem to be a banana republic then. That is number one. Number two, which is very important, if the minister is talking about a struggle, the same struggle is going on in Balochistan, in Sindh, in Northwest Frontier.
Okay, but we're talking about Kashmir
so that
today.
means
Certainly. But we shouldn't be having this discussion about, well, there's something else going on elsewhere. Sure, we can have a Balochistan segment.
No.
Absolutely.
So if he's giving this,
okay,
if he's
enough.
giving this logic,
you
one
say
must
there's hypocrisy.
If he's giving this,
but I'd like us to stay on point.
So if he's,
Certainly, I'd like us to stay on point because we can play this game of whataboutery.
Apples can be compared to apples.
Certainly, but we can play this game of whataboutery for the entire segment, and we'll get nowhere.
It's not about what about.
Okay.
The fact is, Kashmir is an integral part of India.
We will do a Balochistan segment, and we will invite you on, I assure you, as our third guest, right? Okay, so let's refocus back on Kashmir. Let's go to the valley. Let's go to Srinagar. I want to bring in Mirwaiz Umar Farooq now. Mirwaiz,
I would not like to talk to terrorists. I would not like to talk to terrorists. If the show has a terrorist, I will not speak to
hold on. Okay, so before we go to Mirwaiz, Raman, what's your proof that Mirwaiz Umar Farooq is a terrorist?
The people who support the ideology of leading India with 1,000 cut, the people who support the break India philosophy,
hold on, Fawad.
That is leading to such kind of incidents, unfortunately.
Hold on, Fawad.
Mr. Pandita was there, who was killed by his mob when he was giving sermons inside. He should not forget it. This is an act of terror on humanity, and this is what is troubling everybody.
Okay, but I'm intrigued. If he was a terrorist, certainly. I'm intrigued. If he was a terrorist, certainly your CRPF or your military would have him in jail. But he's not. He's sitting at his home and he's Skyping us.
He is. Okay. These are the people.
Mirwaiz.
These are the people who propagate.
Mirwaiz, let me bring in Mirwaiz. Mirwaiz, first of all, address the accusation. Go ahead. Address the accusation.
If Conference is a terrorist organization, why did the leaders of the BJP, Mr. Vajpayee, Mr. Advani, talk to the Hurriyat Conference?
Because Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam says that you try and get everybody, even the people who are doing wrong, to the righteous path, and we as Indians, as Bharatiya, we do that. You don't have the tolerance. You tell me, why did Quran Wani or this guy, both of them never talked about Jammu and Kashmir? They talked about Islamic Khilafat.
If you'll allow me, I'm going to direct this as we go along. Mirwaiz Umar Farooq, the terrorism accusation aside, let me ask you, we've seen this before. We've seen an attack by a militant, and we've seen a crackdown on the valley. We've seen lockdowns, we've seen hundreds of arrests this time, we've seen hundreds of arrests in the past. What makes this time any different to what we've seen before, Umar Farooq?
Well, let me first of all say that as far as the people of Jammu and Kashmir are concerned, the leadership of Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, we regret every killing which happens on our soil, be it of a Kashmiri boy, be it of an Indian soldier or a Pakistani soldier at the LOC. But the problem here is that, we are the ones, because we can understand the pain and agony, because we are the ones who are losing our young people every day. Every day we have to shoulder 5-6 coffins of Kashmiris who are being killed ruthlessly under the garb of military operations, under the garb of CASO. And we need to acknowledge the fact that why is a situation, we have reached a point where young Kashmiri boys of 18 years old, 20 years old, this young man, Adil, who was a student, who left his studies and became a suicide bomber. What led him to join this
Your ideology.
approach? So this is a big question. And because we primarily believe that because the government of India is ignoring the political problem, they are not trying to look at the genesis of the issue, which is a political problem. You cannot compare Kashmir with Maharashtra, with Bombay,
Why not?
with any other.
Why not?
Because there are UN resolutions which India is a signatory to.
Sorry,
India went to the
you signed the same. The
Prime Minister,
Mr. Mirwaiz, let me
Okay,
take
Raman.
off the garb out
Raman.
of this. The first point is Kashmir under Maharaja Hari Singh signed the same dotted lines as the other over 500 did. Number one. Number two, very important, which should not be forgotten, that Kashmir is, by the Act of Parliament, is an integral part. And when you come and talk about the plebiscite issue, which you again and again refer to, which is a charade that you and Pakistan follow, the must understand part of it is, it said that this only starts when it is totally demilitarized. It is status quo around 47, the way it was.
So, Raman,
it has to be a completely
India
demilitarized
sending
zone.
10,000 extra paramilitaries to the region.
We
and
will.
is arresting hundreds of people. How is that moving it any closer to demilitarizing?
Anybody, I'll tell you, it is not our onus to demilitarize. It is the onus of the Pakistan to demilitarize it. Let there be a good situation where those things can be talked about, number one. Number two, the fact remains that the people who are there, who are doing these kind of terror activities, and the ones who, under the garb of being a normal citizen, get into stone pelting to save their terrorists, any person who is abetting act or a crime and going further to continue doing acts of crime or supporting those who are in the act of crime is as much a criminal.
Okay. Fawad Hussain
Now,
Chaudhry.
we had as a goodwill.
Let me bring in the other two here.
Okay, hold on. We had a goodwill measure.
Okay.
We released and removed the cases against a lot of these kids.
Okay. Let me bring in Fawad.
But the fact
Fawad
remains,
Hussain Chaudhry.
these people.
Raman, I want to bring in the others.
10 seconds. These Mirwaizes and the other people, they have their children studying outside India. It is the common Kashmiri, the poor Kashmiri who is on the street taking the fire, taking the hardship. It is not these high-flying so-called leaders of Kashmir who are getting into giving their children onto the street with these protests.
I want to address one of the points that you brought up. Okay, Fawad, the onus is on Pakistan to help demilitarize the region by stopping the support for the militant groups. That's what we're hearing from the BJP. Your response to that?
Well, absolutely, no problem with that. We want to demilitarize Kashmir so that plebiscite can be held. So if India offers a free and fair plebiscite, we are absolutely ready to demilitarize, no problem with that. But the problem, right now the problem is that what India is doing, for example, just look at the behavior of the spokesperson of the leader of whom, Mr. Modi, was not actually denied visa by USA and the rest of the world before becoming Prime Minister because he was called butcher of
And
Gujarat.
your Prime
And now
Minister
he's
was
alleging
stripped naked.
for very, very honorable people
Your
like
Prime Minister was
Mirwaiz
stripped
Umar Farooq
naked
and others
in
that
US.
they are terrorists.
Why?
So this is the kind of behavior we see from India. So when
Mr.
this kind of
Minister, your
non-serious
Prime
people
Minister
come
was
on the
stripped
media
naked.
and
Hey,
make
come on,
offers,
Raman.
and now since
Most of
the
us
problem
brown
is,
men, as we travel, have been
since the
stripped
problem
naked
is-
traveling to the US and elsewhere. I think it doesn't say anything, right? Let me bring in Mirwaiz Umar Farooq here.
No, and
Okay.
that never happened. That
Okay.
never happened, and that never happened. And obviously, he's just trying to. But just one last second, one last 10 to 5 seconds.
Okay.
The problem is what we want. Pakistan, as Mirwaiz has rightly said, it's the sufferer are the people of Kashmir, and their voice must be heard. Their desires must be met. This is our case. We have absolutely no problem with any decisions people of Kashmir will make.
Okay, Mirwaiz, I want to ask you, at the root of it all, yes, you talk of repression and suffering on the streets of the Kashmiri Muslims in the valley who feel they don't have proper representation, they don't have a voice. Setting aside the militancy and the accusation that Pakistan is behind the militancy, to what extent, Mirwaiz, is Pakistan behind the actions of the people who are on the streets, whether they're throwing stones or just protesting peacefully? To what extent is there a Pakistani presence?
So you have to understand the fact that the basic problem is that there are forces in India, especially the government, who are trying to give an impression that the struggle of Kashmiris is sponsored. It is being aided and abetted by external forces. The fact is that if you look at militancy, look at the militancy of the last 2 to 3 years. 520 deaths occurred last year, 2018, out of which around 270 were militants. 260 are Kashmiri boys. So 95% of the are those boys who are Kashmiri, who are being killed, who are being maimed. Look at the arrests, look at the detentions. 2016, they used the pellet guns on Kashmiris. 11,000 people were affected by those. 3,000 people, young boys, were blinded by those pellets. So I think this is a very easy way out for the people in India, and especially the government, to put an onus on external forces that because Pakistan is doing this and this, that is why the people of Kashmir are on the street. There was a charge against us. The Hurriyat is paying the people of Kashmir 500 rupees to every boy to go and throw stones. They were charged. Our leaders were arrested. They are still in Tihar jail, the notorious jail. 14 of our Hurriyat activists are behind bars. The situation has gone from bad to worse. There are cases against us. I am most of the time under house arrest. So are my other colleagues. Last year, 2018, I was 160 days, I was put under house arrest. Hurriyat is not allowed to go out. We are not allowed to meet people. You have ban on.
Why does the Pakistani diplomats try and meet you every now and then? Are the Pakistani diplomats your nannies?
Because they talk about the people of Kashmir, and we will meet everyone who will talk about the rights of the people of Kashmir. We will keep on trying.
So, sir, in that respect, we should meet
everybody
who talks about the right of Balakot, the Northwest Frontier Province, Sindh, all the other domains that are there. We should talk to everyone.
Balochis don't want to see you. That's the problem. The problem is that Kashmiris want to meet us.
Gentlemen,
But
both of you
Balochis don't
are
want
at
to
the
see
same time
you.
now. Hold on.
Likewise, no one else in
Exile.
Pakistan wants to see you.
It's impossible to actually demystify what's being said here. So Mirwaiz Umar Farooq, hold on.
India.
Hold on. Mirwaiz, finish your point, Mirwaiz, and Raman, you can get to respond. Mirwaiz Umar Farooq.
I'm saying that we need to understand that even by the standards of the government of India, they are saying that there are 150 to 200 militants active in the valley, out of which 90% are local. For dealing with 200 militants, you don't need 600,000 troops. You are getting more hundreds and thousands of troops, into Kashmir under the garb of having elections, under the garb of maintaining the highways now. So basically, the true presence in Kashmir is a very clear indication of military occupation. This needs to end. This is a political problem. We have amply said that if this hatred has to stop, this revenge politics, this warmongering between the two countries is not going to lead us anywhere. If killings and counter killings have to stop, we really need to strike at the root of this problem, which is political. India, Pakistan, and Kashmiris have to come on the table. India and Pakistan have to keep bargain.
Okay, let's get a response from Raman.
No,
okay.
sir.
Raman Malik.
So the first and foremost point is that it is all about the basic fact that Pakistan has nothing to do with Kashmir, because Kashmir, the entire of Kashmir, the ones they have occupied also, is an integral part of India, which they have falsely acquired, number one. Number two, if it is about political issue, the political issue is that you must talk about development. That is happening. But what they are doing is, they are trying to talk about politics or a political issue with the barrel of the gun and bombs. And let me also tell Mr. Mirwaiz also, and you through your channel, let me tell the others that it is only 4 districts which are affected by terrorism primarily, out of which 1 we have cleaned. We are going to clean the rest also. And believe me, the fact remains that Kashmir needs development, education, and good standards of living, which we are going to provide. These nuisance people
Hold on, Mirwaiz, I'll give you a
are
chance.
not required. So these nuisance people can carry on with their charade that they have been doing. And there is one more important question. Anybody who talks about peace or the unified country and its, the spirit, they gunned them down. Mr. Lone's father was gunned down by the same set of people, by the same ideology. Why? These stone pelter kids whom they are talking about pellet guns, I want to understand, why is it that when you are on the street to protest, why do you need to throw stones? Why is it that when a terrorist is hiding in a particular position, they send these kids out?
Okay. Okay, Raman, you've mentioned this a bunch of times.
If you send your child,
you've mentioned this.
If you send your kid out on a road without being with him, and you say it was, the issue of the car to come and hit.
We're running out of time here. Okay, so Mirwaiz Umar Farooq, I want you to fold your response to Raman into this response as well, to the fact that Indian politicians are sitting down and having a hearing on Article 35A to discuss the very status of Kashmir. Maybe they'll go in and completely take over it again without any semblance of autonomy. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's quite clear that, they are working on many fronts. I mean, militarily, they have failed to break the will of the people. Politically, they have failed. And now they are coming through fake, these legal and constitutional ways to strike at the root of the Kashmir cause. Basically, you have to understand this 35A is a hereditary law, which prevents any outsider from buying land in Kashmir. And that's what the BJP and the RSS agenda is. They want to change the demography of Kashmir.
So if the taxpayers are paying the money, what is your problem? If the taxpayers are paying money for development of Kashmir, why shouldn't the country have it?
Of Kashmir are going to be on the streets the moment the Indian Supreme Court or any other court, any other channel, they challenge this 35A.
See, they do not even they do not want to respect the Supreme Court.
Okay, Raman.
They do not want to respect the law of the land.
Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens after they discuss it.
Raman, Indian judiciary is the most impartial judiciary.
Raman,
see, Indian judiciary is,
Listen. Let's not get into the Supreme Court and the Indian judiciary. That's for another time, just like Baluchistan and some of the other issues that you brought up. Raman, Mirwaiz, and Fawad, Hussain, Chaudhry, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you here on the Newsmakers. And I'm now joined from the UN's headquarters in New York by Pakistan's UN ambassador, Maleeha Lodhi. It's good to have you joining us here on the program, ma'am. I want to broaden this out and look at the geopolitical implications. You heard some of what had preceded you in the discussion. Is it a tougher job for you these days defending Pakistan in the face of India's accusations that you are behind terrorism in Kashmir?
I don't think so at all. In fact, it's India that has to answer to the international community, to answer to the United Nations for violating Security Council resolutions, for violating human rights, and for the atrocities that it's committing. Let's not forget, what is the root cause of violence in occupied Kashmir? It is the denial of self-determination to the people of Kashmir. It is the record that we've seen over decades of India trying to establish might is right and failing at that. Its failure to manage the situation in occupied Kashmir is responsible for where we are today. And let me say, we are perilously close to an escalation that can have very, very serious consequences, not just for the region, but for international peace and security.
Is it really that serious, or is it just maybe a lot of saber rattling? Are we genuinely, seriously, possibly on the verge of war?
Well, I didn't say we were on the verge of conflict. All I am saying is that Indian leaders' rhetoric, the belligerence, the kind of statements that we're hearing from the Indian leadership, sadly, is leading to an escalatory situation. And you know, escalation in our part of the world is always perilous. So we are in a fraught situation. My Prime Minister has offered talks. He's offered to resume the peace process with India. He's offered an investigation into the incident of 14th of February. I think it's very clear who stands for peace, who stands for a peaceful settlement and a negotiated settlement of the dispute of Kashmir, which, let's not forget, is an international dispute. It is internationally recognized by where I'm standing, which is UN, and it is something that the international community should respond to, because the situation can spin out of control.
And where you are in Manhattan, on the Lower East Side, if somebody goes and picks up the New York Times today, they'll have a look at an article that quotes the Financial Action Task Force, which says that Pakistan is not doing enough to curb terrorism financing and money laundering. And that global financial watchdog has basically blacklisted Pakistan again. It's saying that Pakistan could face consequences. So they see an act of terrorism, they see the Indian accusation, and they pick up the New York Times and it says Pakistan's funding terrorism.
The real issue, I'm not here to comment on the New York Times. I can only comment on where we stand in the country and what we have done to fight terrorism. Pakistan has been a primary victim of terrorism. We have suffered because we are in the eye of many a regional storm, storms that we did not create, storms that were either driven by external powers or by an occupation in our neighborhood. So I think let's get the context right. It's very easy to pick up a sentence here and a news report there, but if we don't get the historical context,
I ask you specifically because
what Pakistan has also done,
certainly. And I'm sorry
what it's done to fight terrorism.
Certainly, and I ask you specifically because the watchdog, ma'am, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but the Financial Action Task Force specifically talks about Lashkar-e-Toiba and these groups connected to militancy in Kashmir, right? So a lot of people take them seriously, and they seem to have strong methodologies.
Many of the groups that you are referring to, are proscribed in my country. We continue to fight against terrorism. We are very clear what we need to do at home, and we have been doing it. We have lost tens of thousands of people in this fight against terrorism. In fact, the elimination of Al-Qaeda from our region would not have been possible without Pakistan's active help and support. So, as I said to you earlier, let's get the context right. Let's not pick up a sentence here and a sentence there and then pass judgment on it. I think it's very clear what we need to do right now. The region is on the cusp of a very dangerous situation. We need to step back. We need to ensure that dialogue rather than demonization is taking place. And we need to ensure that we find a peaceful settlement to the issues that divide Pakistan and India. I think my country is very clear where we stand, and so is my Prime Minister.
Maleeha Lodhi, very finally, are you talking to the Indian ambassador to the UN at this point in time?
I think the answer to that is that India has adopted a no-talks posture, and that's reflected here at the UN. India has to drop its no-talks posture and speak to Pakistan about all the issues that we need to talk about, especially to find a peaceful settlement to the long-standing dispute of Kashmir. Otherwise, this violence will never go away.
Ma'am, it's been a pleasure having you on the Newsmakers. Maleeha Lodhi, Pakistan's ambassador to the United Nations. Thank you very much for joining us.